Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at an Open Ultra League team featuring Liquidation GOLISOPOD that helped me go 9-1 and climb to 2635 ELO. The team consists of a Regirock on the lead, running the standard Stone Edge, Focus Blast moveset, Trevenant as the save switch. Even despite the fact that Trevenant did get nerfed, Trevenant does prove to be a nice save switch for this team, as it can pull a shield from most flyers not named Pidgeot, and as the closer, the star of the show, we have GOLISOPOD. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out GOLISOPOD in action in the Open Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, going up against fellow content creator Caleb Peng, picking up a bit of a difficult lead, Regirock into Shadow Nidoqueen. But my opponent gives up switch, save switches into Cobalion, and that is very nice for me, as now I can put the Nidoqueen onto my GOLISOPOD later in the game, and Trevenant does quite well versus the Cobalion. I'm full sending the Shadow Ball here, opponent will commit the shield. I continue to farm up with the Trevenant Cobalion, firing off another charge move, but they are actually slightly short of the Stone Edge here. That is only going to be the Sacred Sword, and Sacred Sword is not going to be enough to KO. So I am able to hang on to my shield, make it to the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will put them into farm down range. They're able to make a last second Sacred Sword, but this is not going to be enough to KO. Sacred Sword is going to leave the Trevenant alive. Opponent sends in their final Pokemon, which is Obstagoon. I'm going to fire off the Seed Bomb. I don't really want to give Obstagoon the energy head start, so I'm going to pivot back into the Regirock. Regirock making it to the Focus Blast, and this will be lethal. Opponent will have to commit their final shield, and they do. They now know that I do not have Earthquake, which means it's very safe for them to send in the Nidoqueen. They fire off the Night Slash with the Obstagoon. I continue to farm up with the Regirock. Opponent is finally going to bring back in that Shadow Nidoqueen. Nice job banking a ton of energy onto that Obstagoon for later, and unfortunately, my energy is walled here. I'm firing off Stone Edge after Stone Edge in this matchup. Stone Edge is going to connect onto the Nidoqueen. I continue to farm up with the Regirock, switch, and we get the catch onto Trevenant. My opponent wanted to throw before I made the third Stone Edge, so we end up making the catch, and now it is GOLISOPOD time. In case my opponent has Stone Edge, I will respect it with a shield. Unfortunately, it is just going to be a Poison Fang. Farming up with GOLISOPOD. X-Scissor is resisted, but it should be enough to KO from this low health range. X-Scissor will KO. In comes the Obstagoon. Obstagoon does have quite a bit of energy here. I will no shield. Night Slash connects, and that does quite a lot of damage because my defense has been debuffed by the Poison Fang. They're going for Night Slash number 2. That's going to get GOLISOPOD low. From here, I have the Stone Edge banked, so I should have the game won. I can fire off the Liquidation, snipe with the Stone Edge on the Regirock. That will be taking care of the Obstagoon, and that is a good game. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Regirock into Clefable. Clefable, of course, with Fairy Wind can spam out Meteor Mashes lightning fast. My Regirock does not want to have to deal with it, so I'm going to save switch into Trevenant. Trevenant can tank whatever they throw here. Opponent is going to fire off the Meteor Mash, and I'm just looking to farm up and fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will not be lethal, but it will put it into a range where I can potentially go for the one shield farm down. My opponent is perfectly content to just play out the zeros with Clefable. I'm going to commit the shield and look for the Shadow Claw farm down. This way, I leave with quite a lot of energy on my Trevenant to threaten whatever my opponent has in the back. It's a Shadow Charizard. I'm full sending the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball will be shielded by my opponent. Trevenant just cannot make that Shadow Ball. I'm settling for the Seed Bomb. My opponent's counting is perfect as they no shield. In comes Regirock. My opponent has their own Regirock in the back, and I send in GOLISOPOD. GOLISOPOD will be taking super effective damage from the Stone Edges, but GOLISOPOD is able to hang on and fire off the Liquidation. My goal is if I can just get rid of my opponent's Regirock, then the game should be won. I'm farming up, they're firing off the Stone Edge, and I will commit the shield. Lock-ons don't do a lot of damage, so I'm just going to stay in this matchup and just try and get rid of that Regirock, because that's the main thing that they can use to damage my own Regirock. Opponent calls the X-Scissor bait. That's unfortunate. I'm going for X-Scissor number 2 here. Opponent is going to let that through. They are saving it all for Shadow Charizard. Shadow Charizard, probably the scariest closer in the Ultra League. Blast Burn connects, and even for a resisted move, that still hurts. Regirock firing off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will be grabbing the final shield from the Charizard. Charizard needs 2 moves to KO, and they cannot get there. Regirock makes the Stone Edge. Stone Edge takes out the Shadow Charizard, and that's game over. Picking up a neutral lead in the next match, Regirock into Registeel. I'm more than happy to stay in this matchup to start, because that way my GOLISOPOD does not have to deal with the Registeel. I'm farming up to the Focus Blast and firing it. Focus Blast, not going to be lethal, but it will leave quite a lot of damage on that Registeel. They can tank my Focus Blast, and I can tank theirs. So I'm going to no-shield, farm up to the Focus Blast, and try and catch their Focus Blast on my Trevenant. So I farm up, switch into the Trevenant, but we both had the same idea to try and catch Focus Blasts onto a Ghost type. And now we have Trevenant versus Giratina. Giratina fires off the Dragon Claw. The fact that they didn't go for the Shadow Sneak, it's possible that they may be running Ancient Power. I'm firing off this Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will be shielded by my opponent. My opponent will fire off the Dragon Claw just before I make the Shadow Ball. Very nice counting by my opponent as they're able to pressure my first shield. I will commit that shield because I want to either get rid of this or get their last shield, and I am able to get the final shield. I'm going to send in GOLISOPOD here, but if they have Ancient Power, things could get a bit uncomfortable. In comes GOLISOPOD, opponent is running Ancient Power, and that hits for super effective damage, not what I was hoping to see. GOLISOPOD will be able to tank 2 Ancient Powers here, but now I am in the red health. I'm looking to farm up with the GOLISOPOD, go for the X-Scissor, it's resisted, but it should be enough to KO. And this way I lead with energy on GOLISOPOD. In the back, my opponent has Haxorus. I'm going to go for the combo play here, fire off the Liquidation, combo play into the Stone Edge, but my opponent catches on the Registeel. That is absolutely awful. Stone Edge gets them low, but wait. Maybe I can lock on down. If I can lock on down and leave with a move, I can win this game. Thankfully, Zap Cannon does not debuff. Regirock gets the farm down of Registeel, leaves with the Focus Blast loaded. Haxorus, unfortunately for my opponent, is very glassy. It gets KO'd, and that's game over. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Regirock into Swampert. I have 2 better responses in the back, so I am going to save switch into Trevenant, and my opponent responds with Wall Rain. I'm firing off this Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb will hit for super effective damage. Wall Rain is able to tank that damage, however. Wall Rain continues to farm. They're firing off the Icicle Spear. I should be able to live this. Icicle Spear connects. Trevenant cannot make the Seed Bomb, and that's due to the Seed Bomb nerf. That is quite unfortunate, where previously Trevenant could force a shield there. Due to the nerf, unfortunately, I am not able to win a shield. I'm just going to let this damage through. Wall Rain did not make it to the Earthquake there, looks like, which is quite nice for me. And now I can just KO with the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will be lethal. It's all up to GOLISOPOD. In comes GOLISOPOD. They have a Giratina in the back. And unfortunately, this is a matchup where I'm going to lose. If I had a shield advantage, GOLISOPOD could potentially put in work here, but I have entirely resisted charge moves, and Giratina is extremely tanky. Giratina able to withstand the Shadow Claw damage quite nicely. They're firing off a Dragon Claw, and I will commit the shield. I just need to try and keep GOLISOPOD healthy, but unfortunately, it's just looking like it's too little too late. Now I'm baiting, hoping against hope that my opponent for some reason shields this, but they do not. Giratina, even with Shadow Claw and the Liquidation changes, still not a good matchup for GOLISOPOD. GOLISOPOD farming up. We do get the catch onto Regirock, but again, it's just not going to save me. They have a Swampert and 2 shields, and Swampert with 2 shields is just too good. Swampert makes the Hydro. That's going to KO. I have all the energy that I could ever need on GOLISOPOD, but it's still not going to be enough. In comes GOLISOPOD, firing off the Liquidation. I just want to get a shield. I get a shield from my opponent. I finally get the defense drop right when I don't need it. Hydro Cannon KOs, and that's a good game. That set was a 4-1, and now we'll take a look at some highlights from the following set, which was a 5-0. We lead Regirock into Shadow Wall Rain. This is a pretty nice lead for Regirock. Opponent farms up a ton of energy and then sends in a Dragon Breath Giratina. I don't have a strong response to a Dragon Breath Giratina save switch, so I'm just going to stay in here with the Regirock. I was basically just waiting for them to throw, but they are not throwing, so I'm forced to throw a Stone Edge so I don't go over 100 energy. My opponent fires off a charge move here. Regirock is very tanky, so I can absorb this damage, and now I'm just going to send in Trevenant and commit to the farm down. I can tank whatever they throw here. Opponent did make it to the Shadow Sneak, so Shadow Sneak will hit for super effective damage, but Trevenant is going to get the farm down and lead with energy to threaten whatever comes in. And it looks like it is a Charizard. I'm firing off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will be no-shielded, and Charizard, unfortunately, is going to get the perfect farm down. Charizard leaves with energy, but they're just not at the Blast Burn, so I'm able to make it to the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will be shielded by the Charizard. In comes the Shadow Wall Rain. My clock is not up. They're firing off a charge move. I'm just going to call an Icicle Spear here. Opponent goes for the Icicle Spear, and that allows me to make it to another Stone Edge. This should be grabbing the final shield, and then you already know it is Golisopod time. Golisopod resists everything the Wall Rain throws here. Golisopod isn't the tankiest in the Ultra League, but resisting everything the Wall Rain throws is quite nice. X-Scissor will be fired into the Shadow Wall Rain here. Wall Rain, no shields remaining, just has to take the damage. They're firing off another Icicle Spear, and again, I am not going to shield. I can't let my health get too low, or I could potentially be sniped by a wing attack, so I will commit a shield on the Golisopod. Golisopod continuing to farm up here, going for the back-to-back X-Scissors, and this X-Scissor should be enough to KO. X-Scissor will KO the Wall Rain. In comes the Charizard. Charizard wins CMP over the Golisopod, but I saved my shield, so I can shield the Dragon Claw, go for the Liquidation, and as you can see there, opponent top-lefted as the charge move's thrown. And that's a good game. We've got same leads in the next match, Regirock into Wall Rain, but this time the Wall Rain is not Shadow. I believe this time they actually stay in the lead, so we can see kind of how that works. I'm going to stay in with the Regirock, go for the Stone Edge. Stone Edge, not going to be lethal, but it will get them quite low. Wall Rain is going to no shield. They're returning fire with the Earthquake. Earthquake would not KO, but I do want to keep Regirock healthy. And now, since they full sent the Earthquake, I can choose to massively overfarm here. I'm firing off the Stone Edge. If my opponent shields, then I can look to try and go for a catch. They shield, they're trying to make it to the Earthquake, so we switch and catch onto Golisopod. Golisopod able to absorb that resisted Earthquake, and in comes Mandibuzz, and oh my goodness, Mandibuzz almost feels like a relic, hardly ever played nowadays, and I'm incredibly happy that I ended up catching onto the Golisopod, as Trevenant would get absolutely crushed by the Mandibuzz. I fire off the Liquidation, I do see the defense drop, and I'm able to make it to Liquidation number 2. Opponent is going to be able to tank this, but the Liquidation is going to start to add up as we get another defense drop. Opponent forced to fire off a charge move just to get rid of the Golisopod. Aerial Ace will KO. In comes the Regirock. Throw a couple lock-ons and go for the Stone Edge, which will be lethal. Stone Edge is going to KO. Is the opponent going to send back in the Wall Rain, or do we see the third Pokemon here? They're thinking about it. Opponent sends back in the Wall Rain. I'm farming up, not going to let them make it to a move. I'm just going straight for the Stone Edge. Stone Edge is going to be shielded by my opponent, and now I'm in a bit of an interesting spot. Do I actually want to protect the Regirock? I decide to let it go. I'm putting my faith in Trevenant. In comes the Trevenant. Trevenant looking for the farm down, but just can't get there. Wall Rain makes the spear. I'm trusting that a full health Trev up energy will be good, and it's a Cresselia in the back. And that is game over. Shadow Ball rocks the Cresselia. Cresselia cannot KO with a single charge move, and they resign the match. Hopping into the final match, we see a familiar lead, Regirock into Clefable. Not a great matchup for Regirock, so I'm going to farm up a small amount of energy and save switch into the Trevenant. They're staying in here, and I can tank whatever they throw. My opponent is going to fire off the Meteor Mash, as 2 Meteor Mashes will be lethal. They're staying in, which honestly works out nicely for me. I'm firing off the Shadow Ball. Again, as we've seen, this will not be lethal, but it will put them into perfect farm down range after I commit a shield. So I will be shielding up the Trevenant and then looking for the farm down here. Clefable staying in, trying to make it to another charge move, but they cannot get there. Trevenant leaves with massive energy loaded. My opponent is going to send in Cobalion. Oh my goodness. They are weak to Trevenant. Shadow Ball connects. I'm farming up with the Trev, and I'm going for Shadow Ball number 2. This should just about KO. Opponent is going to commit the shield. I'm farming up with the Trev, anticipating the Sacred Sword, so we catch on Golisopod. Opponent full sent the Stone Edge. Oh no, I may have just thrown this game. Catching a super effective move onto the Golisopod is not what I was hoping for, and the X-Scissor barely does not KO. They make another Stone Edge, and unfortunately, I just threw away my whole Golisopod for basically no reason. And in the back, they have a Shadow Swampert, and I feel like an absolute fool. Golisopod would have crushed the Swampert, but now I'm stuck with Regirock. I go for the Stone Edge intentionally there because I need 2 moves to KO. I have to call this as a Hydro Cannon. It is just the Hydro Cannon. If my opponent Earthquake there, they probably could have just won, but they go for the Hydro, and now I can Focus Blast, grab the shield, send in the Trevenant, and snipe with the Seed Bomb. Shadow Swampert, down it goes. We farm down Cobalion, clutch the 5-0, and end at 26-35 on the day. All in all, I felt like the team had really nice synergy. Regirock and Trevenant is a near perfect core, excluding dark fighters like Obstagoon and Scrafty, and on top of that, being able to bait out their flyer and then just have Golisopod in the endgame proved to be quite successful. However, I will say I'm still not entirely satisfied with Golisopod in the Open Ultra League, mainly due to X-Scissor. Shadow Claw and Liquidation are both great. X-Scissor, unfortunately, is a pretty terrible charge move, so Golisopod can be a pretty nice anti-meta pick, but I think what's really holding it back at the moment is probably going to be that X-Scissor. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.